All right, Premier League begins this weekend. Oh, yeah. 38 games, most of the calendar used up by it. And then, of course, international tournaments in between as the season goes.
Goodness.
I want to get to top 4 bets, top 10 bets. You had a big winner on relegation last year, so I want to get your thoughts on that. You had a 3-1 hit on relegation last year. Golden Boot, want to get into that as well. Let's just begin with the biggest one, though, here before the break, which is obviously who's going to win this thing and where's the bet?
Yep. So, for the context, Man City is trying to win 4 straight titles. No one in England has ever won 4 straight titles. And this is not just like the Premier League era since 91, 92. This is since ever. So since the 1800s, no one's ever won 4 straight titles. So
big deal.
There's the question of, will Man City be complacent after winning the treble and just having done everything? Maybe. That's one level of motivation. Like, no one's ever done this. Man United won 3 in a row recently. They couldn't get a 4th, etc. So City is by far the best team, which, I mean, just look at the odds and you can obviously see that they're minus 125 or so to win the title. Straight up, I'm obviously picking City. They are the best team. They are pretty deep. They, especially in defense, they picked up a couple good defenders, so they have a great back line that's just not going to allow a lot of goals. The only question, really, again, there's that complacency thing. They were super healthy last year, City was. So, if they get an injury to a Kevin De Bruyne or somebody like that, or obviously Erling Haaland or Rodri, one of these key guys, that's the question. Like, can they hold up in that case? And they also lost a couple guys. Gundogan and Mahrez have left. So in attack, just a couple questions on that front. You want to play City at minus 125-ish to win the title? I'm fine with that because that it's the right number, but they're the best team. And there's no clear-cut number 2. I have to take a number 2. I'm going with Arsenal at plus 550 is the price I have them at. Just because, look, they were the second best team last year. If they hadn't had one of their center backs get injured in March, they might have pushed City, but their defense kind of fell apart after that. So they brought in some reinforcements in different places and kind of all the places they need. There's a few questions about who's going to score the goals. Not that they lack options, but they almost have too many options and they just haven't really proven, okay, who's the choice here. So, but if I have to pick one, I mean, I'm going with that second favorite of Arsenal. You can make a case if you want. You kind of squint and I can see Liverpool bouncing back. I could see Man United, getting together in a full season under the new manager. Beyond that, I don't think there's much of a case for any of those teams, but City is the obvious favorite here.
That was you've torpedoed my follow-up question, which was, of course,
sorry.
No, it's great that you have, though, because I was going to say, if I came to you from the future and if I told you it wasn't Man City or Arsenal, who was the team that did it? What it sounds like is you're telling me you're the crazy one. It didn't happen.
I mean, I guess just kind of going down the list, but I guess it's Liverpool.
Okay.
They underachieved almost all their numbers last year, and they brought in a bunch of new pieces. So the spin would be, hey, Jurgen Klopp is a great manager. No one's arguing that, and he's going to have this team kind of bounce back, sort it out. They've reinforced the defense, which was struggled at times last year. So that's there's an optimistic case for Liverpool.
Sounds like Man City's the bet, though. Not the sexiest, but Man City at minus 125. Paul Carr, kind enough to hang with us for a second segment here today. Premier League preview. Talked about who would win the outright. Man City minus 125 is a good bet to Paul. Let me just ask you about this, Paul, by the way. Let's go top 4 first before we get top 10. Top 4, which represents, of course, the teams that would qualify for the Champions League. What do you like here in the top 4 market?
So kind of 2 angles I'll take. I'll start with the short shot. If I take a short shot, so one of your 5-6 favorites, I would go Arsenal minus 200. Obviously, you're laying juice, and this is a season-long bet, so you have factor that into bankroll management, etc. But it's hard for me to see 3 teams leaping Arsenal. We're assuming City's going to get in because they're minus 2,000 or whatever. So if you want a short-term loan to your sportsbook, that's not the worst thing, I don't think. But yeah, Arsenal minus 200. Are they going to make it more than 2 out of 3 times? I think so. Because all these teams behind them just have questions. I mean, they could get leaped by 1 or 2, sure, but 3 of them just seems super unlikely. Again, they've reinforced some of the holes they had. They're deeper than they have been. They brought in Declan Rice, among others, from West Ham. So, they've shored up some problems. They've been on this nice trajectory the last few years of just getting a little bit better under Mikel Arteta. So, even if they just kind of tread water, there's no way 3 teams are going to jump them in addition to Man City.
What's the sexier top 4 play here?
Yeah, you want a long shot?
I do.
Kind of one of those get weird ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go Brighton.
Ooh.
So Brighton was 6th last year, 9 points out of the top 4. They underachieved their underlying numbers by about 6 goals, which was toward the bottom of the Premier League as far as that goes. You see them here on the screen at plus 400, I think. You can get a plus 550 out there this morning. So shop around for that if you're looking for it. Brighton's kind of the Brighton way. They're, I don't know, the Oakland A's in some ways. The Oakland A's of the early 2000s, not the current Oakland A's of the Premier League. And they just kind of keep bringing guys in and then selling them for a lot of money. And they lost their manager last year and it didn't matter. They may lose their best player, Moises Caicedo, may leave here in this offseason. That's still up in the air right now. But they just kind of grind it out. So they were right there last year. A few bounces go their way and they might have gotten a top 4 berth then. So, plus 550, you want a flyer and an underdog to root for this season? I like that price.
Brighton, top 4, 6-1, top 4. I didn't mean to get all Keith Morrison Dateline with you there when you said it. I was like, ooh, and then what happened? What about top 10? Is there a similar type bet for top 10?
I think so. I like Brentford at the top 10 at plus 200. They were 9th last season and even a little bit better in the expected goal difference over the course of the season. Like nobody took better shots than Brentford last year, meaning closest to goal, highest expected goals per shot, and no one gave up worse shots. So, you don't have to be a stats whiz to know that if you take good shots and give up bad shots, that's usually pretty good. Again, another team that's kind of famous for their money ball type of philosophy. They do have the question of who's scoring goals because Ivan Toney was their big goal scorer last year, and he's suspended for the first half of the season for violating the betting rules in England. But they've got a few guys that could develop. They have a solid defense, and again, the organizational philosophy of this team just very smart. And plus 200 just seems it's low. It's a top 10-ish caliber team. This is, to me, should be a lot closer to a coin flip. So yeah, Brentford plus 200 for top 10.
You were saying they're also more Oakland A's money ball as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. They maybe, I don't know, not the original necessarily, but one of them. They came up from like the 4th tier in England and worked their way up to the Premier League for the first time. And a lot of it is, being smart financially, finding the guys cheap, selling them for a lot of money, using your set pieces well. So from a strategic on the field standpoint, just do smart things that not a lot of teams were doing 5 and 10 years ago. And it's, they've gotten to the Premier League. They've stayed in the Premier League I think this is their 3rd season. So they're not established, but they've just quickly kind of made this into a solid team that isn't going to blow up, and they're fairly reliable.
Okay. I want to save relegation for last because I know that's your favorite bet, and that's the one you hit last year as well. Let's go to Golden Boot. Golden Boot, tough to pick anyone here, you say, but you did land on someone.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen a Golden Boot favored. And Erling Haaland is minus 135. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah.
And number 2 is Harry Kane at plus 750. Usually you get that's ridiculous. Usually you get a guy, maybe plus 200, 300. There's a few in that like 500 or lower range, and then after that it gets wild. But it's if you're betting against Haaland, I think you're essentially betting on an injury to him or a couple of his teammates. You want to bet on Haaland? I don't hate it. He takes penalties. Obviously, Man City is going to score a lot of goals. Good team. Those are kind of my rules is, you need one of the better teams and take penalties. So sure, you want to do that. I'm not going to fight you with it. But the one long shot I have is Bukayo Saka of Arsenal. This is plus 5,000. So this is obviously a long shot.
Whoa.
But now he took 3 penalties for Arsenal last year. They do have Jorginho, a midfielder who takes a lot of penalties, but he might be on his way out. Saka's young, 21, 22, had 14 goals. I think he's still got another gear left in him. Takes a few more shots this year. He can get in that top 5 in shots and make a run at the goal. So this is, again, obviously a long shot, but you're looking for somebody kind of off the board. I think he's got, as good a shot as anyone down the board of making a run at this.
All right. Bukayo Saka at 50-1 from Arsenal, but Erling Haaland, really the play at minus 135.
Yeah. And, you look like Harry Kane's number 2. Well, is he going to be on Tottenham? We're not really sure. Bayern's throwing money at him, and Tottenham's pretending they don't want it. Mohamed Salah is 31 for Liverpool. He just doesn't feel like he can keep playing at this level. Marcus Rashford for Man United is 16-1. Still kind of a winger. He had like the best season of his life last year and was still only in the teens for goals just because he also doesn't take penalties for Man United, for example. So, there's just so many big holes. Maybe Darwin Nunez makes a jump for Liverpool if you want to do something like that, or Gabriel Jesus for Arsenal, but he's injured. So there's just all these question marks about any of these other guys, one way or the other on next wave, kind of in the top 10 or so.
All right, that's for the Golden Boot, or as DraftKings words it, odds to be the top goal scorer.
Right.
Yep. Make sure there's no conflict on any of the wording. All right, relegation. Yeah. Who did you hit at 3-1 last year for relegation again?
Southampton.
I remember that. Yeah,
kind of really overachieved the year before, and then didn't do a whole lot, and so we're kind of going back to a similar sort of well here.
Okay, who you got?
Wolverhampton plus 300 is the price I got, and I've said these prices can vary a lot book to book early before the season. So plus 300 for Wolverhampton. Dead last in goals last season. Not a fluke. They were dead last in expected goals last season. If you don't score goals, that's bad, Gill. I'm going to break the news to you here. So, okay. And then they didn't sign anybody.
Down.
Yeah. Their biggest signing was a 31-year-old right back named Matt Doherty, not the former Carolina coach who used to play for Wolves. They may lose their keeper, who was really good a couple years ago, not so good last year. I just don't know where they're going to get their goals from. They have a good manager, but there's already this news out. He's already fighting with ownership about not getting transfers he wants, that maybe he's on the outs. To me, this just has all the makings of a wheels fall off sort of season. It's going to be late September. They're going to fire him, and who knows what's going to happen. So plus 300 for Wolverhampton, a team that wasn't that good last year and really should have been in the relegation race more and didn't do a lot to change things. I like them to go down this year.
All right, from Southampton to Wolverhampton, 3-1.
All the Hamptons, getting them out of here.
Appreciate it, Paul. Thank you so much, man.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.